What you guys today we'll take a look at how to optimize Windows 11 25H2. So if you're installing Windows 11 25H2, go through your normal installation, and when you get to the choose your region layout, you'll need to push Shift F10 and then basically type in this command right here, and this will allow you to log in with a local account only, and that's what you want to do rather than using a Microsoft account unless you want to sign into that Microsoft account. You'll see a box popping up like this. Just give yourself a username and a password, and then you can click on next, and this will then create the account as a local account rather than being forced to use a Microsoft account. Once we've done this, we'll go into Windows and start configuring the group policy editor for turning off all of the bloat and all the stuff that you don't need. So we're just going to let this finish off here, and then you're going to get some questions which are important to turn off at the beginning during the installation. Now, of course, if you don't need to do the installation part, you can skip this part, and I'll leave some timestamps in the video description. So I'm going to choose no here for location, no for find my device, and we're going to select required only and accept, and then say no to improve inking and typing. This, of course, is all to do with telemetry. And we're going to say no there, and no again for tailored experiences. We don't want any of that stuff. So now we're at the desktop. This is a brand new fresh install of Windows 11 25H2. I'll quickly show you here so you can see. We have all of our settings that we need to change, and there's quite a few of them. Now, of course, you can use scripts to do all of this. We already know that. There's plenty of tools and scripts out there that you can use. This is for people that want to learn something and don't want to actually use any scripts on their PC. As long as you're running Windows 11 Pro and above, you can use the built-in group policy editor. If you're a Windows 11 home user, then you'll need to use the third-party tool called Policy Plus. And I'll make another video showing you how to do that with Policy Plus. So type GP Edit inside the search or group policy, and you should see the group policy editor for this computer. So it's broken down into two parts: computer configuration and user configuration. We're going to be concentrating on computer configuration because we want to configure it for the computer, but you can either do it for users or for computer. So let's start off with administrative templates here, and we're going to start off with control panel. Now this video is going to be quite long because we're going to go through and turn off all the stuff that you don't need. So allow online tips. We definitely don't want to allow online tips. You can read here what it means. I'm not going to go through it in fine detail for everyone because we will be here for about 4 hours and I've not got that much time to do. So we're going to just disable that feature. Next, go into personalization, and there is one in here which is to disable the lock screen, and you can see here, do not display the lock screen. Now you can follow along and just choose what I choose, but personally I would advise you to read all the information to understand what you are saying disabled or enabled to on your PC, because you could be disabling or enabling a feature that you don't need. So make sure you just read all the information. That way you understand and learn. It's pretty straightforward. But again, I'm not going to go into great detail here, and I might make the odd mistake myself because I'm doing this in real time and rushing along. So I'm going to disable this feature, and we're going to leave that disabled. Next, we're going to move on to some other ones here. I'm not going to go through every single one here because this will take many hours to do. And once you've done this, you only have to do it once, and you can export all of these settings and just import them into a new PC. And it goes without saying that we're going to be turning off automatic learning right here. Again, you can leave yours alone if you want to, but you can see here, if you read it, it'll either tell you to enable this feature or disable this feature, and that means disabling the actual feature itself. It can be a bit confusing sometimes when you enable it because you're enabling it to disable it. And we can see handwriting personalization goes without saying. We're just going to make sure we deal with all of that. You can see we've turned off this automatic learning right here. There's a bit of a description there which will give you an idea of what this actually does. So we're going to just go through some of these here. Hide and disable all items on the desktop. This is going to allow you to hide all the icons on the desktop, or you can even hide all the icons on the actual taskbar if you want to. These are all in these settings. So go through here and choose which ones you want. We're going to do hide the task view button here. I don't particularly want that displayed on my taskbar, but if you do, then leave that setting alone. You can see here removed pin programs from the taskbar. If you want to stop people from pinning programs to the taskbar, you can do that with these settings. There is other settings inside here that might suit your needs, so go through here. Don't just follow what I'm doing. There is some other ones in here might be necessary for your setup. So we're definitely going to remove notifications and the action center. If you do use the action center and notifications, by all means don't touch that setting, but I'm going to be hiding that from my taskbar here. So there's probably going to be a few more inside this little area that we can configure. So let's have a look here. So show or hide most used list items from the start menu. And we also have one here that do not keep history of your recent open documents as well. And we can have a look there. And if you want to change these settings, by all means, read all the information right here and make your choice and then click apply and OK. If it doesn't apply to you, then you can leave this setting alone. But I'm just showing you some of these settings that you might want to enable on your system. So this is all to do with this area here on the start menu. So let's take a look at some other ones here that we have. And you can see here, remove frequent program lists from start menu. And we also have remove personalized website recommendations. And we can do that right here. And this is obviously from the start. So we're going to go ahead and do that because we don't want any sort of recommendations. And it will tell you whether you need to enable or disable that feature. So what we're going to do here is we are going to enable that feature. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and look at this one right here. Remove recommended section from start menu. So that's the recommended section right here. If you enable this policy and it will no longer show. So we're going to enable that policy as well. That's the recommended section right here. Hopefully that will get rid of that right there. And we can just roll through here and just pick some ones that we want to remove. Now, there'll probably be some other ones here that we can use. So remove recently added lists from the start menu. And if that's something that you want to enable, by all means, enable that feature like I've done right there. Let's have a look at some other ones right here. So you can see hide category view. If you wanted to force that, you can do. In the notifications area, there might be some notifications in here that we want, and we want to get rid of this right here. Turn off toast notifications. So we're going to do that right here. And we also want to do the one above, turn off notification network usage right here as well. And you can read all the information right there. So this is Windows push notification service. And I do definitely want to get rid of that because I don't want to be notified every single 5 minutes and getting pop-ups and everything like that on the system. So we're going to turn that off. And again, you can choose what you want to select and what you don't want to select. But like I said, just go through it and read all the information because there might be some things on here that you want to disable, which I've left, and you can go ahead and do that. Let's take a look inside device installation here. And you can see do not send Windows error report when generic driver is installed on device. If you enable this policy, the error report will not be sent. And that just might be a privacy concern for you where you don't want stuff being sent to Microsoft. And if that's the case, then you can turn off all of the do not send stuff in your error reporting and logs and things like that. If you wanted to go through here, pretty sure there's going to be a ton of it inside here because it is Windows 11 at the end of the day. So I'm going to go ahead and enable those features to prevent sending error reports. If that doesn't bother you, then leave them alone. And again, some of these settings are going to be settings that I think people would want to disable. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it because I know they're going to say, why didn't you disable that? So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to go here and do Internet Communication and Management. We're going to go in here and I can already see turn off Windows Customer Experience Improvement Program. And that's one of Microsoft's telemetry collecting or harvesting data machines right here. So we can opt out of that by enabling that feature and it will opt you out and stop sending information back to Microsoft. And there might be some other stuff in here like turn off printing over HTTP. That might be something that you use at work or something you need, but I do think that's a bit of a security risk, being only HTTP and not HTTPS. So I would enable that policy to prevent that from happening and force HTTPS printing only. And we can see turn off downloading printer drivers over HTTP. And I'm definitely going to enable that because I don't want people downloading printer drivers on an HTTP connection. So that's what I would enable as well, and force them to use it either through Windows updates or through a HTTPS website. So let's go ahead and go into here, turn off help and support center. Did you know? And that's what we definitely want to turn that off, because that's information that will be being harvested or something to do with Microsoft. And I certainly know that everyone would want that turned off. So we're going to turn those off. Again, you can leave them on if you wish, but we are turning them off in this video. So again, you can go through here and have a little look and see if there's any other things inside here that you might want to turn off. Turn off error reporting. That's something that people debate about, whether you should leave it on or turn it off. If you don't want to report any errors back, then turn it off. If you want it reporting to you so you can see errors, then maybe that's something that you might want to leave alone, because otherwise you won't be getting any sort of errors if you're turning them features off. So choose what one you want to turn off and leave on. Next, turn off search companion content file updates. If that's something that you want to leave on, you can do. You can do your research on this sort of stuff as well. I'm just going to disable that feature right there. And turn off access to the store and all that sort of stuff. There's all loads of other stuff in here that might be something you need. I'm definitely turning this off. Windows Messenger Customer Experience Improvement Program, another one of their harvesting information from you sort of programs. So we're going to opt out of this and turn that on and enable that feature so we don't have to send information back. So let's move on. So let's move a little bit down the list here and skip a few out and go to OS policies. Now, this is allow clipboard history. I know a lot of people are paranoid about having their clipboard history sent back to Microsoft. So if that's something you don't want to do, then you can disable the clipboard history and it won't store any clipboard history. Some people find that useful to have that on, but other people get paranoid and they don't want their clipboard history stored. That way it can be harvested. And for that reason, I'm going to turn it off in this video just to show you how to turn it off. But if you want to leave it on, you can do. It's entirely up to you. So we're just going to go through here, and all of these will be disabled because they're all to do with the same sort of thing. So I'm going to go here and turn these all off. This is your activity feed, and this is for allowing publishing of users' activities. That says it all right there. So that is getting disabled as well. And allow upload of users' activities. And we definitely don't want to allow that. So we're just going to turn all of that stuff off. It begs belief how this stuff is on the system, hidden, running in the background, but you can turn it all off inside Group Policy Editor. Power management is something that a lot of people might want to tweak. Now we are on a PC here, so if you are on a laptop, there might be some settings in here that will suit your needs for battery and things like that, but we're just assuming you're on a PC, desktop PC. There might be some bits in here like power throttling settings, like turn off power throttling. If you don't want it to power throttle, then you might want to enable that feature to turn it off. So we're going to go ahead and enable that and make sure it's not going to power throttle. But if you're on a laptop, that might be something that you don't want to do because it uses battery. So bear in mind, just have a little look here. So again, you can specify your active power plan if you wanted to use the ultimate power plan, or you wanted to use a more high performance one or power saving one. You can set it here and it will be set permanently and you won't have to mess around with it. And you can enable that feature there. The custom one is if you wanted to put in some custom code here for the ultimate power plan, you could do. There's plenty of information online. I'm pretty sure you could find that right there. Do a search on Google and paste it in and Bob's your uncle. Let's move on to the next one, to Remote Assistant. Again, I'm not going to be going into too much of these remote ones. I'm leaving these alone. But removable storage access, this might be useful to have a look inside here and disable some of these ones if you're a bit security conscious and you don't want anyone plugging stuff in and causing problems. You can mess around with those in there. Scripts as well, we're not going to be touching that in this video. We're just concentrating on the settings of the PC and also telemetry and things like that. Storage Sense as well, allow Storage Sense. If you use Storage Sense on your PC, then don't configure this and leave it alone. But I definitely want to turn this off, and I don't want any sort of Storage Sense. I don't use this program. If you do use it, then you might want to leave it. I particularly don't use it on my PC. I use other ones. But with that one disabled, you shouldn't have to configure any of the ones below because you've turned it off. And you'll see what I mean at the end of the video when we have a look at the settings. So again, if you do feel the need to go in here and configure these the way you like, you can do and configure it to work as the way you want to, or you can just leave it and leave it alone. But you can see we don't need to touch any of this stuff because we have actually turned it off. Next up, we've got System Restore. Again, if you don't want to turn this off to save drive space or you don't want it running on your PC, you can turn this off. Some people like to have this off. Some people like to have it on. If you do use it, then don't turn this off and disable this feature because they won't be able to enable that feature with it turned off. So leave it not configured if you're going to be using it. If you do not want to use it, then configure those options, and that way you won't be able to use System Restore and it won't enable itself in the background or anything like that, just in case it does. So there we go. Under User Profiles, we've got another one, turn off Advertising ID. So we're going to want to enable that feature to turn off the Advertising ID app so we can't use our ID. So let's move on to the Windows Components section right here, because there's quite a bit inside here that needs to be done. Now, a lot of people have asked the question, do I need to do this every single time I reinstall Windows? The answer is no. Once this is all set up, you can just copy over your profile and that is it. It will be configured the way you like, and then just do a bit of removing of apps and that's it. You're up and running. So this is a section right here, App and Device Inventory. Again, some people like to turn this stuff off, and this is turning off install tracking and tracing and things like that. But you can do if you want to. I'm going to leave those alone for this video, just in case. But if you do want to disable those features, by all means do so and go in here and turn these features off. Some of them might need to be disabled and some might need to be enabled. Just read the information and go through. But we're going to leave that one for this one. And we're going to go into App Privacy. This is all of your privacy and security area, and you'll need to basically enable this feature and then force deny all of these, and then basically that will stop them from working. And again, what you can do here is look through and make sure you're not using any of this stuff. So this will be your calendar, your location or geolocation. It will be things like motion, notification, phone calls, all that sort of stuff. If you use none of that stuff, then by all means go in and do what I'm doing here. Enable, force deny, click OK. Camera, if you have a webcam or anything like that, then obviously you don't want to disable it because you won't be able to use that feature. Same thing for microphone. If you use microphones and you're doing Discord or streaming or any of that stuff, then obviously don't disable your microphone. All the other stuff like contacts, unless you're using the contacts app inside Microsoft, then self-explanatory really, you'd leave it alone. But we're going to be disabling all of the stuff apart from the actual microphone itself. And it should look something like this. One more to do. And the only one that's not configured is the microphone, and that's because we're leaving that alone. And we've enabled and force denied all of the others, which will turn that settings off in the privacy and security area. So this is the only one we're going to leave, which is our microphone. So let's move on. And let me just quickly show you here so you can see. Inside here, location, you can see it's turned off, all grayed out, and it's all disabled. And that's exactly what them policies do. So if you are tired of running batch files and stuff like that and scripts that don't actually physically do that, then Group Policy Editor will do that for you. So we're going to move on to application here. And this is for the turn off application telemetry. And this self-explanatory, really. It's going to harvest data from that application telemetry, from that application, send it back to Microsoft. Turn off inventory collector as well. Pretty much the same sort of thing. We're going to be disabling that. And this is part of the consumer experience or customer experience program. We're going to turn all of this off by enabling this. And it says here, inventory collector will be turned off and data will not be sent to Microsoft collections of installations and stuff like that. So whatever you install in, it won't be sent back. So we're going to turn that off. Turn off steps recorder. Now, this feature has been removed by Microsoft, but we're going to still turn that feature off because for some reason they've left it on the system. And even though they're phased out the steps recorder, we're just going to turn it off for good measure. Turn off autoplay. Now, if you like stuff to autoplay, then obviously do not touch this setting. But if you're one of these people that don't want things auto-playing on all drives, whether it be, when you plug something in like a CD or whether you plug in a USB flash drive, it will automatically play. If you don't want that happening, then turn this feature off and that way it won't. And you'll physically have to go in and click on it to open it up yourself. I find it a bit more of a safer method to turn off autoplay. Biometrics, you can go in here and there's a couple of settings in here. Allow the use of biometrics. If you use the biometric service, then by all means don't touch this, but I definitely want to turn all of this off. And again, you can see here, by doing so, we can either enable or disable this feature. Just read right the way through and it will allow users to log and using biometrics if you leave that alone. I'm going to disable those features. Same thing, allow users to log on using the biometrics. If you use that to log on, then obviously don't touch that feature. I'm going to disable both of those because I don't use those features. So next, you've got BitLocker drive encryption right here. I'm not going to go through all of that BitLocker stuff, but if you do want to disable that, you can do. There's some configuration inside here if you want to disable BitLocker. Once you've installed Windows and you've got it all set up, once you turn it off, it's off. But if you want to turn it off from here, you can do. But I'm leaving this alone because some people might use BitLocker because some people like to encrypt their drives. But you can see right here, you can go through and can customize it the way you like on your system. So underneath BitLocker here, you can see we do have camera. So let's go and have a look at allow camera use. And you can configure this to either use your camera or not. If you've disabled the camera inside the app section, which we did earlier, then obviously you've just stopped your camera from working. So I'm just going to turn that feature off. The chat feature right here, again, if you're going to be using this, you can leave this alone, but I'm going to go ahead and configure this. You see, if you enable this policy settings and set it to disable, in the chat icon will not display and users cannot show or hide it in the settings panel. So we're going to go ahead and disable that feature right there, enable and then disable on the drop down. So click OK. Next up, the cloud content here. This is for cloud content, and you can see right here, we can enable this feature and this will present itself into default fallback content. So let's go ahead and do that right there. If you try and disable it or not configure it, Windows Experiences will still be able to use it. So we're going to go ahead and enable both of these like so and click OK. Do not show Windows tips, and you can guarantee this is to do with telemetry and harvesting information, data collection, as you can see here, and it will also opt out from posting pop-ups and things like that. So we definitely want to get rid of that as well. And same thing for this one here, suggestive stuff. We don't want any of this. So we're going to turn all this off. This is the Microsoft Consumer Experience program. We definitely don't want to do any of that. So let's go here and take a look. So do you want to project your PC? If you don't, then you can turn this feature off. So let's go ahead and do that. If we turn this feature off, it won't be discoverable. If you do project your PC, then leave that alone. Otherwise, you won't be able to project it. So requiring a pin for pairing. So we can say never because we're not going to be using project our PC, but I'm just going to put it to never so it can't be ever used. Credential user interface is right here. We might need to do prevent the use of security questions for local accounts. If you use your security questions as a security message, by all means you can leave this alone. But if you don't want the option to use security messages or questions, you can basically disable this feature and you won't be bombarded with that. You just put your password in and that's it. But if you're one of these people that forget your password and you want these questions popping up and you've got secret questions put on there, then you might want to leave that alone. Data collection and preview builds. This is where you're going to also get a lot of telemetry data collecting or harvesting of information. And you can see right here, we just need to go through here and read this information and turn this off. You can take more time in reading some of this stuff. I already know that a lot of this stuff is to do with that sort of telemetry. So I'm going to go ahead. This is to allow telemetry and things like that. We definitely don't want to do that. Allow commercial data pipeline. And you can see it says in the description right there about telemetry. And we definitely don't want to do that. So another question I see people say is, once we set this up, what happens if there's a Windows update? Will these be reset? And the answer to that is no. I haven't had to reset any of this stuff once there's been an update. And if there was an update where it reset everything, then all I would do is just copy in my files again, which would take literally, 30 seconds and it back up and running again. It wouldn't take you any time at all. No downloading of any scripts or anything like that. You won't have to do any of that stuff. You can just use your group policy settings and transfer those from PC to PC. It doesn't have to be locked to your PC. So you can set this up the way you like. Now, the reason why sometimes people ask for files for me to give them to them, the trouble is if I do that and there's settings in here that messes up your PC, all I'm going to get is a load of abuse in a comment section saying, you broke my PC, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. And it's all going to be to do with policies, really. So it's best to follow through this video and choose what you want for your PC. And that way, it's not going to mess up your system, because everyone has different needs for their computer use. So just choose what you want. But if you want me to share these files, I'll be happy to stick them up on my Discord channel so you can download them and pop them on your PC. It's entirely up to you. So I've speeded up this process and I've finished all of these. Now you can see all of the settings right here. Just pause the screen and they need to be enabled and disabled. Just take a screenshot of that and you should be pretty much good to go from there, because otherwise you're going to be here for ages. So desktop app installer, we don't need anything inside here, so we can skip through. Desktop gadgets, we definitely want to turn off desktop gadgets. It's a thing of the past. No one uses that stuff, but we can turn that off. There we go. And desktop window manager. And you can see right here, do not allow window animations. If you don't want animations on your screen, which is those really fancy animations that take up a bit of system resource. If you've got an old PC, maybe you might want to turn that off. But if you do have a modern computer, I probably don't see any harm leaving those on. A bit of eye candy is not going to hurt you if you've got a modern fast computer. But if you've got a really old system and you're using this on unsupported hardware, then maybe turning off some of the animations and some of that stuff might help with system resources. So let's go ahead here, and what we're going to do is move on to the next section, is device and driver compatibility. Right here, I'm just going to leave that one alone for this one. Digital locker, and we can go ahead and do that right here. Let's have a look. So device registration, digital locker. We can open this up and take a look. Do not allow digital locker to run. If you enable this setting, digital locker will not run. And we're going to enable that feature. And next we've got Edge UI. And again, this is to allow the edge swipe. If you don't want to use that, then you could turn it off by clicking disabled. And we're going to do that right there, and disable the help tips as well. I'm pretty sure no one needs help tips popping up. And it's just another setting that we can turn off right here. And that should now be done. Okay, so let's take a look here. We've got event forwarding. We don't need anything in there. And we can skip down to maybe file history here. Turn off file history. Now, if you use file history, then do not disable it because it's not going to work. It's pretty common sense, really. So we're going to turn it off because I'd never use file history, and I want to turn that off. Find my device. We definitely want to disable that feature as well. So let's go ahead and do that. You can read the information right there. And we need to definitely do handwriting here. And we can open this up. And for some reason, this never grays it out. It always just leaves it as a normal off or on. So you can physically do that yourself, but we'll go ahead and disable that feature. Home group, if you don't need that, you can configure that, prevent the computer from joining a home group. If you wanted to do that, you can do. And again, what we're going to do is going to go into Internet Explorer. There's a few bits in Internet Explorer. And again, like I said, you can go through here and there is quite a few things that you might want to customize yourself, like turn on suggestive sites. We definitely don't want suggested sites, so we might want to disable that feature by enabling it. And I know it's quite confusing sometimes. Enabling is disabling, but it's just the way Microsoft work, and it just makes it a bit more confusing. But you can see here, we don't want to prevent bypassing of smart screen filters or anything like that. We're not going to be turning off any security features in this video. It's just basically telemetry and also stuff that you're not going to use that is what we call bloat. So next up, what we want to do here is prevent participation in the customer experience improvement program, more telemetry. As you can see right here, we definitely want to opt out of this. And these are all buried deeply in these settings. And this is what they do. Why don't they just put them in one place where you could just toggle them all off? But they have to bury them deep, and you have to go through all of this to find it. And this is the problem with Windows. It's all deeply buried, hoping that you're going to miss it. And they don't give you the option to opt out an easy way in the actual desktop. It always has to be done through group policy. So let's have a look here as well. So in privacy, there's some in private filtering here, and I can see some other stuff that you can maybe turn off and enable. And as soon as I start seeing automatically collect information, that's a red flag for me, and I want to turn it off. But you can see here, it says automatically collect information, and we don't want any of that stuff, and we don't want any sort of tracking or any sort of in private browsing or any of that stuff. You can see right here as well, this includes cookies, temporary internet files, history, and other data. And basically, we don't want to do all that sort of stuff. So what we'll do is we'll configure these to our liking. And you can see turn off collection of in private filtering data as well. Again, it says right there, collection of in private filtering data. So again, you can read through these. And if I do miss any, I will add them to those files and I'll re-upload them to Discord. So I will be customizing this even further and looking at it in more detail as time goes on and adding more to it. So always come back and check, because there might be an updated version of it. And I will always leave a little note saying updated version of these settings to make sure, just in case I've missed something, because when you're recording videos, it's quite easy to overlook something and miss something because there's quite a lot inside here, as you can well see. So always come back and check. And that will be on my Discord server. So if you haven't joined Discord server, the link is always in the video description of each video. You can join there. It's free to join. As long as you're not trolling or causing any problems, you should be fine. But if you're coming on there to cause trouble, you will be banned. So let's go ahead and turn off the location here. And we're going to turn this off because we don't want to do any sort of geolocation. So you can see right here. So I'm going to toggle these off and enable these features, and that will opt us out. And this feature will not run when it's enabled, like so. Another one right here, we're going to go inside here, turn off Windows Location Provider. Windows Location Provider feature will be turned off, and we definitely want to do that. Now, at the end of the day, how successful are all these settings going to be? All we can do is turn off what we see and hope for the best. There's probably no 100% way of turning off all of the telemetry on Windows, but you can at least, reduce it by quite a bit. So we're going to go into the map section right here. We don't need any sort of maps or anything like that. If you do use offline maps and all of them features there, then obviously goes without saying, leave these settings alone. And you can see how much we're having to turn off and disable here. And this is the problem with scripts, is when you run them, it's going to go ahead and turn off a bunch of stuff that it thinks you should turn off. But there might be stuff on there that you actually want. And if that is the case, then that is the risk of running scripts. Whereas this way, you have full control of what you want to enable or disable, or what you want on your system or what you don't want on your system. This is why this method is probably the best, because once you've got it set up, it's going to take literally seconds for you to import this into a new computer and you're up and running. No more running any scripts or going online and running risks of getting infected or even damaging your operating system and making you have to reinstall Windows. This way is a lot safer and it's completely reversible. So just bear that in mind before you do any sort of download of any scripts. Now, Microsoft Defender antivirus programs, there's a section inside here called Maps, and it says Join Microsoft Maps right here. You can read all the information right there, but it's basically sending information back to Microsoft, and you can opt out of this if you want to. I would advise you to, if you don't want to send any sort of information back. If you're one of those people that don't like to send information back to Microsoft, then you would need to disable that feature. Send file samples back. Well, this is information that might be worrying to some people. They might not want to send stuff back. But again, this is how antivirus programs become really good, by sending samples back. If you get infected, it will send that sample back and it will stop other people from getting infected from that file. So we're going to disable it for this video because I know people will want to disable that feature. Next, we're going to go to Microsoft Edge, and there's going to be stuff in here. Now, again, you don't need to spend vast amounts of time inside Microsoft Edge if you are going to use some form of script or Revo uninstall it to uninstall it, or whatever way you uninstall Edge. If you're going to uninstall it, then you're not going to need to worry about a lot of this stuff. But if you are, then you can go through there and look at some stuff and disable it. But I'm going to leave it out because I know most people are going to rip it out of their operating system. Next, we have this Use User Experience Virtualization. So experience, that might mean sending information back because it's an experience, and it might be sending some information back. So we're going to disable that feature right there. And again, we've got NetMeeting, which is pretty old nowadays. No one uses that. So we're going to go ahead and basically disable that feature. Now, OneDrive, after I've done this, we're going to be taking a look at OneDrive. Most people are not going to use OneDrive. If you use OneDrive, then by all means, do not touch anything to do with OneDrive, because obviously you're going to mess it up. But if you don't use OneDrive and you want to configure it, then you can configure it in the group policy, which we're going to do right here. And these are the options available to you right here. But again, like I said, if you do use it, then don't touch it. But I'm going to configure it, and then I'm going to uninstall it once we get to the desktop, because I don't want this as an application on the system. And if you're worried about telemetry and data harvesting from Microsoft, then just don't use any of their apps, or as less apps you use of Microsoft, the better. For instance, Paint, Notepad. There's plenty of options you can use that will make your life a lot better if you don't use the Microsoft equivalents, because obviously that's where they're going to be harvesting data from. So we're just going to block all of this stuff right here, and we're going to be using something else to do our cloud storage. For instance, if you've got a Google account and you use Google Drive, if you don't want to trust any sort of cloud storage, by all means, that's your choice. But I do use cloud storage. I use Google for my own storage, but again, they're all much the same. You're going to have to put some information up there in the cloud, which is a bit of a risk to some people. But me, I use it on a daily anyway. So let's go ahead and turn off active help here. We don't need any of that sort of stuff. And again, out-of-box experience right here, there's something here like allow updates in OOBE. And we also got do not launch privacy settings experience on user login. We can disable that feature right there by enabling it. There we go. And again, we've got paint there, I can see. So let's go through, and we've got some other ones here. Search, we definitely want to do search. We want to definitely turn off a bunch of this stuff because we've got allow cloud search, allow Cortana, and all the other settings here. If you don't want any of this sort of stuff on your system, then you're going to need to set it up to disable the search, cloud search here. And that way you can either click on disable here as well, I think, but we're just going to leave that as is like so. That way we're not going to be using it. So let's go ahead and disable that feature by using the drop down arrow, enable and disable cloud search like so. Click OK and allow Cortana. I mean, Cortana is supposedly not being on the system anymore, but you can always disable it just in case there's some sort of code in there that's running. And we're just going to disable all of these Cortana stuff. And the question I have is, if Cortana isn't a thing anymore, then why are these settings still in group policy? Because they normally remove stuff if they don't use it anymore. So it means it's probably sitting there on the system, all forgotten about, and it's still probably harvesting some form of information. So you might want to go through and disable all this sort of stuff just to make sure that way you're opting out of any sort of harvesting of that information. And I think you can uninstall Cortana now as well, which is always advisable. So we're definitely winning. We're nearly there. And what we need to do is we just need to disable a bunch of these. Allow search and Cortana to use your location. We definitely don't want that. So we're going to turn that off as well. And you're going to do a bunch of locational ones to make sure you're not giving out your location to Microsoft on a plate. So we can see here, prevent automatically adding shared folders to the Windows search index. We're going to turn that off as well by leaving that as enable. And then we can click OK. You can read that information right there. And next we got this one right here. Do not allow locations on removable drives to be added to libraries. We can turn that off right there. That might be another locational one that you might want to consider turning off. And you do that by enabling that feature, and it just stops it from being indexed. And of course, there's some other ones on here as well, like don't allow web search as well, which you might want to toggle on and enable that feature to stop it like so. And that's now done. And now we've got some other ones here which we can do, like don't search the web or display web results in search. You can sort that out if you wanted to by clicking on OK here. And there's another one right here as well. But you can go through in more detail here yourself, but don't search the web or display web results in the search over metered connections. We're going to do that one as well. And I can see another one down here that needs to be done. So you can see prevent indexing for Microsoft Office Outlook as well. You might want to do that if you use Microsoft Office Outlook. And there's another one right here, which is set what information is shared in search. You might want to configure that as well. And you can enable that feature. And you can see here anonymous info right there. So you can click apply and OK. And you can stop indexing as well on limited hard drive space and all that sort of stuff. You can go into much greater detail here yourself, have a good safe look in there and choose which ones you want. But we're going to leave those ones there for the search feature right there. Sound recorder goes without saying, doesn't it? We don't want to allow sound recorder to record. Smart card, I'm just going to quickly check there as well. And that's fine. So let's go ahead and do the sound recorder. And we're going to quickly stop this. If you enable this policy, sound recorder will not run. That's fine. That's exactly what we want because we don't want it recording sound while we're using our computer. Speech, allow automatic update of speech data. And we definitely don't want that either. So we're going to turn that feature off to stop that from working properly by just going disable and click apply and OK. Okay, so we're getting near the end now. So what we need to do here is just do a few more. The store is going to be your Microsoft Store. So if you want to mess around with the Microsoft Store settings, you can do. I'm going to leave those ones alone. But if you do want to configure that, then this is where you would configure the Microsoft Store a little bit more. Sync your settings. Again, all of this stuff needs to go off, every single bit of this, unless you use your sync settings. If you do use them, then do not touch this area because you will not be able to sync your PC to Microsoft. But you need to enable that feature, and you can see we're not check marking allow users to turn accessibility syncing on. So you're not allowing them to configure or turn this feature on. It'll be grayed out and they won't be able to touch it. And it's to do with all of the sync. Do not sync apps. We don't want to sync anything to Microsoft. So I'm going to turn all these off and I'll speed this process up. You can check down the list. I've enabled all those features. Every single one has been enabled. So if you want to copy that, you can go through all of those and enable all of those syncing options. The last one is disabled. All the rest are enabled. And that is the sync your settings panel. Tablet, PC, we don't have to worry too much there. We're not going to worry about the task scheduler here. Again, we're going to leave that alone. And we can go into maybe this one right here, cloud policy details. Let's have a little quick look. No, we're okay. We don't need that one. We can leave that, but we definitely do want to do text input. And you can see here, this is your improve inking and typing recognition. We've already disabled that during the setup process, but if you've already installed Windows, then you might want to disable that feature right there. And there's the other one right here, which we might want to configure as well. And now we want to do widgets because we definitely don't want that widgets on the taskbar. But if you do use widgets, then you might want to leave this one, but we're not going to allow widgets to run on there and we're going to disable it. But if you use your little widget on the side, on the bottom left-hand corner, then leave that alone. Otherwise, it will not work. So I disable that one and click OK. And there is disable widgets board. I think once you don't have to touch these once you've disabled the widgets itself. But if you feel more secure by disabling all of this stuff, then by all means, you can go in here and disable the rest of them, because disable widgets on lock screen as well, that is there. If you want to do that, you can do. But again, the widgets part is disabled, so it's not going to display on the lock screen because we have it turned off. But we'll disable it for good measure anyway by enabling that feature. And we'll also go on to this one right here, which is disable widgets board. Let's go ahead and do that as well, just to make sure. And we'll disable that right there. There we go. So now we've got Windows AI. And again, that goes without saying, this is Windows Recall. If you haven't got a Copilot Plus PC, then you don't have to worry about this. But I would advise you to remove this from your computer, because even if it's on your PC, later on down the line, they may implement this some way. They aren't doing it right now, but it doesn't mean they're not going to do it in the future. So I would remove completely all of Recall settings and uninstall it from the system and remove it. So let's go ahead and do all of that here. I want to spend a bit of time on this because I don't want to skip through here, because obviously this is a real biggie when it comes to privacy. And you want to make sure that all of these are done correctly, where they're not allowed to take snapshots, they're not allowed to send it back or any of that sort of stuff. We want to make sure we opt out of all of this. And again, you can always run a command in the command prompt to uninstall the actual module as well, which is I would advise you to do once you get to the desktop. That way it will not work 100% at all. And that's what we want. So we're just going to go through here, and you can see already it's pretty bad. I mean, this is basically going to be taking snapshots of your PC and again, storing them on locally on your PC. Yes, it will be encrypted, but again, it's not something that people want on their PC. So let's go ahead and go through all of these. Then you can see set a list of URLs to be filtered from snapshots for recall. Well, we're just going to disable all those. And once we've done Windows AI, we've just got a few more like calendar and error reporting and a bunch of other stuff on here. There's not a lot left. We're coming to the end of the video, and I'll just got to remove some applications, and you should be up and running. I'll show you how to back this up as well, so you can have backups of all of your settings, so you don't have to go through this palaver every single time. Once it's set, you're pretty much good to go. Now, disabling this will basically stop it from allocating a certain amount of space as well, but we've turned all of these off. So we're not going to enable that feature and allow that to give it amount of storage like you can see right here. We're just going to disable it and it won't work, and then we'll uninstall it at the desktop. So that's all those done. Now I can see we have Windows Calendar there as well, and that is underneath the Windows AI. So we need to configure that. Turn off Windows Calendar. Now, like I said, if you use Windows Calendar, you definitely want to leave this alone. If you don't use it, then you can turn it off. Windows Color System, another one underneath there, which I can already see, Windows Customer Experience Improvement Program. You can opt out of this if you want to. Just double click on them and basically configure these. If you disable this setting, uploads are not redirected to Microsoft Operations Manager service. So that's exactly what we want. And we definitely want to do this one here as well. If you do not configure this setting or disable it, then CEIP data will not be tagged. So we definitely want to do that. There we go. So that's all done. And what we can do now is, and this is do not send additional data back using the Windows error reporting. This is another place that Microsoft do harvest quite a bit of data, and you disable login. This is login on your system. And if you don't want to have any of that happening, then you'll need to come in here and basically, set all these up to your liking. And there's quite a few of them here to go through. So just go and choose which ones you want to do, like send additional data back when on battery power. So it'll even send data back to Microsoft even when you're on battery power. So we're just going to opt out of that, even though we're on a desktop, just in case people want this on a laptop. So you definitely want to opt out of those ones. And we've got one more here that we can do, which is this one here, automatically send memory dumps for operating system generated error reports. And we can stop that, because if you don't want anything getting sent back to Microsoft, then obviously you will need to disable a lot of this stuff here. Send data back when connected to a restricted or costed network. So we can also do that here. So pretty much all of these are going to be due to sending data back, and it might be advisable to disable all this stuff to minimize any sort of information that might be sent back to Microsoft. I have no clue what is being sent back. Microsoft have made clear statements about what is harvested and collected, but again, if you want to err on the side of caution, then best not to have those features turned on. Now, this one right here, I'm going to leave this alone. And we also have Windows Hello for Business. Again, we've got one here for use biometrics. I could just disable the biometric side of things if I didn't want to use that. Again, this is for business, so I don't think it's going to be related to home users, but we'll do it anyway. This is gestures or such as face or fingerprints on the Windows Hello section. If you don't want to use any of that stuff, then you want to turn that biometrics off. Some people don't mind putting their fingerprint on there, but some people just don't want that information being sent back if it is sent back to Microsoft. Allow Windows Ink Workspace. You can turn that off. Let's go ahead and do that right here. And we'll disable that. There we go. And next up, we've got a couple of more, and I think that's it. And we should be able to then restart the PC and see what it's like. So we're not going to touch any of this stuff inside here. And Windows logon options, there's a few options there. We're going to leave those. And digital rights management. This is for Windows Media. If you use your Windows Media you might want to go through the media player here and check some of these settings here. I'm going to leave these ones as is. Windows Messenger, I might just do this one right here, and we'll just basically turn these off. They do not allow Windows Messenger to run, just in case. There we go. And then we'll just turn this off by enabling that feature. There we go. Now, the last one you might want to look at is the Windows updates. There's quite a few options available here, which you can go through and configure to your own liking. They're all pretty self-explanatory. If you want to set this to a manual sort of update, you can do. If you want to set this to, say, for instance, sticking on one particular feature update, like, say, 25H2, and you don't want to go above, or if you want to stay on, say, 23H2, you can configure all that. I've made videos on that. But we're on 25H2 here, so it's the very latest version, so there will be no new release because this is the newest release available. So we're not going to be setting up that feature right there. But there is this one here, configure automatic updates. If you want to learn how to do that, that's basically going in here and changing this to automatic download, notify to install, and notify to restart. So it's only going to notify you. It's not going to basically install it and straight away and reboot the PC without your consent. Also, you can schedule a install time if you want to do that late at night. If you leave the PC on 24 hours a day, you can do that and pick a date and time, and you can do it every week or once a month, and it will basically do that whenever you set that up, or you can just leave it as is, like so. Okay, so we're back at the desktop. There's a few apps that you need to uninstall. Now, whether you do these inside the apps location and uninstall those, you can do one at a time and have more control over what you're uninstalling. There's not a vast amounts inside here to remove. You can just have a look here and take out what you don't want. It's not that difficult. Some people will make a batch file or script or PowerShell script. It's entirely up to you. If you want to manually uninstall one by one, there's just a few to do. You can come in here and uninstall Microsoft News, OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, and just uninstall all the ones that you don't need. That way you have full control over what is being uninstalled and what is meant to be staying on the system because you might use it. A script will just remove everything. Another thing you can do is open up PowerShell, and you can use code to remove these inside PowerShell, and it will remove them. And this code will be listed all over the internet, and you will just make your own list up if you want, or you can just create a batch file or whatever it is you want to do, or you can just paste them straight into the actual PowerShell window, either one at a time, or you can paste them in just like I'm going to show you right here, and it will go ahead and uninstall all of the ones you have in your list. And again, you can just create a list of these. These are all listed on Microsoft's websites, and they're also listed on plenty of other websites out there. This is physically removing and uninstalling those components from the PC. And again, you can create your own list, your own custom list if you want to. There's all information out there on the internet. You just have to do a bit of research. Everyone wants to keep and remove different types of apps, and that's why scripts are so dangerous, because obviously you have no clue of what it's removing. Whereas if you create your own list, you can physically remove what you want from there. So that's two ways of doing it, either physically uninstalling them one by one, or using a PowerShell window, or you can use an application like ONO Shut Up 10's program and remove apps that way, or even Revo Uninstaller. You might find it a lot easier just to come in here and physically uninstall what's left here, like so. It's probably the easiest method. You can physically remove quite a bit this way, and you can see there's a few little bits and pieces left behind, but I'll quickly show you here. Just click on the three dots and uninstall. Unfortunately, in the UK, we can't uninstall Edge, but if you want to physically remove Edge, you would have to use a script, and it will remove it. But be careful, because it can break certain components on your operating system. So let me quickly hide this search box here and make it a little icon, or you can make it, hide it completely if you want to. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to leave it as a little search icon there, like so. Also, if you wanted to remove, say, Copilot from your Notepad, you can uninstall Notepad and use Notepad++, or you can use the older style notepad on Windows 11 as well. You just have to turn off the new update version of Notepad. So let me quickly show you here. Inside settings, we need to go inside the app section, and once we're inside there, we can turn off the brand new Notepad that comes with this system. So advanced app settings now, and go down to app execution aliases, and then just turn off the Notepad. And you can basically make a link to the old Notepad, which is in the Windows directory, and put that to your desktop or on your start menu or something like that. And you can basically use that. I'm just turning off Edge here because that is a resource hog. And once you've turned that off, you can go into your C drive and then come down to the Windows directory and then System32, do a search for Notepad here. There it is right there. And all you need to do here is pin that to your start menu. You can see this is the old school Notepad, and that is the one that I prefer to use rather than using the one with Copilot in it. If you don't want to use it at all, just uninstall it completely and just use Notepad++. And you can see there's the old one here. You can either uninstall it or you can just unpin it if you want to, and it will unpin it from the start menu, and you can pin your new one here, the old version right here. And you can get your little tweaks like the classic context menu, or you can get the old photo viewer, or you can change your theme to dark mode, whatever it is you want to set up on your system. You can easily find these on the internet as well, or you can use a tool like Winero or something like that. I'm just going to quickly sign out here and sign back in, and you should be pretty much up and ready to go. You should be pretty clean. A lot of the stuff should have been turned off. As you can see here, already it's starting to look a lot nicer and a lot cleaner. Yes, it took you a long time to configure all of that, but next time around it won't. And you can just quickly and easily get up and running by copying that stuff into its own folder. Let me just quickly uninstall that right there. And you can just do a bit of fettling now on your system and get it the way you like it. You can unpin certain stuff. You can lock down the recommended and have more icons so you don't see all of that, as much as that stuff there. It's pretty straightforward. Just go into your startup settings here. You can uncheck what you don't want, which is a couple of these here. They're probably in the group policy settings. I've probably missed those. And again, you can check mark these ones as well. And these are for your actual menu system. So you've got shortcuts on there as well. And you can do more pins right here. And literally, this is just setting up your system. It doesn't take that long. And you can be up and running on your PC once you've had all this done in literally 15 minutes, not even that. And you haven't downloaded any programs or scripts off the internet and putting yourself at risk. It's very simple and easy to do. And you won't need to do any of that stuff anymore once you've got a backup of it. Yes, it takes a bit of time to set it up, but once you've got it all set up, you should be good to go. And you can see I've already turned off all of the visual effects here with that registry file. Got it on the performance setting right here. And we're just setting this up to this PC. Just a couple of more little settings here. And we should be good to go when we hit this PC right here. We should see our usual look that I like. And again, you can get your menu, context menu set up as well with a registry file. And you should be pretty much good to go from there on in. Now, it's important that you make a backup of all of your group policy files. And you can do that by either manually going to the location and copying them, or you can use a batch file like this, run this on the system, and it will pull the files and put them into a folder on your desktop like so. And there we have all of our backup files right here. I'll upload these to Discord so you can use them if you want. Let me know if you want any changes done to it or any more added to it, and I'll by all means add those in. I think we pretty much got it covered here. But again, there's probably a few more bits on there. And if you do manage to tweak it a little bit more and you want to upload them to Discord, then let me know and we can put them up there and I'll check them out. So inside the group policy area here, inside the Windows System32 folder, you'll see this is where you're going to copy those files into, and you should be then be able to reboot the PC and you'll have all those policies set in place and no more worrying about running any programs or anything like that. Now, of course, there is always going to be someone that says it's quicker just to run a program. It's basically not once you've got these backed up. It takes literally seconds. So there you go. So group policy, if you open this up right here, you can also export all of your settings from here as well by going up to the top here, actions and export list. If you want to do that, you can do. I prefer just to use that batch file. Super easy. I'll upload that to the Discord server as well when I get a chance. Hopefully I'll do that tonight. I've still got to upload this video today, so it might be a little bit later on tonight. I'll get that uploaded to the Discord server. So be patient, guys. I will get it up there either tonight, later tonight, or early tomorrow. There's a couple of more settings I want to quickly do, and I'll quickly show you some of the settings that have been changed so you can get an idea of what these settings have done to the PC. So basically what's happened is it's set a bunch of policies on your computer to disable a lot of the stuff that you're not going to use. So storage here, you can see this is being managed by our organization. It's not going to be sending that stuff back. I need to change the multitasking. I don't use that feature. And I also need to do quickly in developers here for the end task. I like that feature to be enabled. Other than that, you should be pretty good. I mean, from here, you can see in this project your PC and other places, this will be all turned off. And you can see it's been set as a policy to turn it off. Clipboard, again, you will not be able to use the clipboard with the settings that I did on this PC. So if you did want to disable that, that's how you do it. If you don't, then leave it well alone. Anyway, with that said, I think that's going to be about it. This has been a pretty long video. Hope people enjoy it and watch it. If not, then, you know, it's been a bit of a waste of my time. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Just want to say a quick shout out to all my YouTube members. I really do appreciate the support, and I shall catch you in the very next video, or I'll see you on the Discord server for a chat. Bye for now.